Hey guys, welcome back to the Stuff of Legend. My name is D-Lo and I've got another video for you. I'm going to be talking a lot today, mostly about Star Wars, but I wanted to show you guys what we're dealing with here. Dave Filoni weighs in on some speculations and rumor that come from a situation that happened in The Rise of Skywalker that makes a lot of people believe that Ahsoka Tano is dead. He addresses this, and we can talk about that. I'll keep that one quite brief. But we also have, oops, sorry about that. I'm getting some feedback here. But I'm also going to be talking about the High Republic, and people have questions about what this is. So we're going to be talking about the next wave of Star Wars films after, what they're going to be doing with the sequel trilogy, and then where they're going from there. So we'll talk about that. Also, stick around for the end because we're gonna talk about one of the topics that was very close to my heart towards the end of last year was a Power Rangers fan-made project. And when I say fan-made, I use that term loosely because actual Power Rangers are involved, actors from Power Rangers. And it seemed as though it fell through the cracks last year, but now it's coming back. So we'll talk about that. Stick around for that. And let's go ahead and jump right into the first topic of the day. So, what's up guys? Good to see you again. The first topic of the day today is Dave Filoni addresses the Rise of Skywalker issues that you may have noticed. So I'm going to go ahead and read this, but I want you guys to give me some feedback, okay? Hit the comments if you've seen the Rise of Skywalker. This will be talking about what you've already seen. If you haven't seen it, two things. There will be a little bit of spoilers here, just a touch, because it is involving somewhat of the ending of the film. But also, if you haven't seen The Rise of Skywalker at this point, odds are is you're waiting for the DVD anyway. I would say you're not missing a whole lot. So, but that's a personal opinion. You have the right to enjoy it as much as you want, and we can talk about that at length in another video. So, first, let's jump right into this. I'm going to be reading this article, so join along with me. Here's what Dave Filoni had to say about Ahsoka Tano's voice being in The Rise of Skywalker. So again, spoilers, but here we go. Just because Rey heard Ahsoka Tano's voice mixed with a bunch of dead Jedi in The Rise of Skywalker, it doesn't necessarily mean she's dead. That's the implication the character's co-creator, Dave Filoni, gave us when we spoke to him last week. This is coming from gizmodo.co.uk. And it says, to recap, right before Rey defeats Palpatine in The Rise of Skywalker, she reaches out with the Force and hears the voices of several Jedi. She hears Anakin Skywalker, Obi-Wan Kenobi, Mace Windu, Luminara Unduli, Ayla Secura, Yoda, Adi Gallia, Kanan Jarrus, and Qui-Gon Jinn, all of whom are dead. She also hears Ahsoka Tano, a character who, as far as we know, never became an actual Jedi. I'd like to specify on that. She was a Jedi Padawan. She never became a Jedi Knight or a Jedi Master in the order of the Jedi. But we do know that she was trained in the way of the Jedi. She just never reached the point where she was an official Jedi Knight. So I'd like to clarify that. And whose fate has yet to be revealed in a Star Wars story. Many fans believe her inclusion was proof that the former apprentice of Anakin Skywalker was now dead. And it says, Filoni continues, he weighs in here, so I'm going to go ahead and read his quote. Join me in this part. I have to wonder with Star Wars fans, Filoni said. They seem to watch the movies, but they don't take all the lessons. They deal a lot in absolutes, which is very much a Sith thing. I remember in Empire Strikes Back, Luke speaking out through the Force to Leia. Vader also does this at the end of Empire Strikes Back. There's no absoluteness that these people are dead. I mean, some of them we know are dead. So, this is the quote from Filoni, and I really like this quote because one thing that we know about Dave Filoni is that he is all about Star Wars, 100% through and through. I mean, he's the closest thing we have to George Lucas himself as far as Star Wars canon goes. and understanding Star Wars, at the heart of what Star Wars is. I believe the sequel trilogies suffered in writing characters and writing Star Wars stories because they didn't consult Dave Filoni. They didn't consult George Lucas. For much of it, they didn't even have him on set. You know, like it was very difficult for fans to watch after The Last Jedi came out and we really got to see the trajectory of where Star Wars was heading. At least the sequel trilogy. It was frustrating because we know that great Star Wars has been made in the Disney era in Star Wars Rogue One. It's been made in the Clone Wars, Rebels. Now we've seen with The Mandalorian. Pretty much everything that had Dave Filoni as a consultant or where it kept really close to paying honor to the original trilogy, that did really, really well with fans. And I do believe that right here, with The Rise of Skywalker, pardon me, guys. With The Rise of Skywalker, we see issues and complications with the story and with the plot that seem to have contradictions among the films, among its own trilogy, from The Force Awakens to The Last Jedi, and then again back again with J.J. Abrams' The Rise of Skywalker. It's difficult to find a commonality or a common strand of pattern. And one thing that happened here that I thought was kind of cool when I saw the movie The Rise of Skywalker was the communication part of all of the Jedi that came before her, speaking to her through the Force, because to me that seemed like something that was something that we've seen in Star Wars before, just like Dave Filoni said here. Dave Filoni addresses it like this, and I want to repeat this part because I think this is the important part of the entire article here, is when people suggest that all of the Jedi that speak to Rey are dead, therefore Ahsoka must be dead by the time The Rise of Skywalker is out. I believe she would be 60 years old, if I'm not mistaken. Someone do the math for me. I'm pretty sure she'd be 60. Because she was 14 during the beginning of the Clone Wars series. Pardon me. And by the time she leaves, I think she's 16 or 17 at the most. I think she was 16 or 17. So then 14 years after that, she is in Rebels, because Rebels takes place, I think it's 14 to 16 years after Order 66. And then because Ezra, I believe, was born on Empire Day. So, he's approximately, I think at the beginning of Rebels, I think he's something like 15 or 16 or something like that. So you add another 16 years, and I think she's supposed to be like 32 then. And then you add, I can't remember if it's like 10 years or something to the end of the original trilogy, and then 30 years after that. So maybe she's like 60 or 70. She'd be older, but she wouldn't necessarily be dead, unless her species ages really rapidly, and I don't think that's the case. Especially being that I think it's not Luminara. I'm forgetting the name of the other Jedi, Shakti. She seemed to be a little up there in age, maybe like 40, 50, but still healthy and strong in the prequels. So just trying to do the math in my head takes forever. I don't want to linger too long on that. I have already done that for quite some time now. But you guys get the gist here. Basically, he says, when you watch the sequel trilogies, he says this, I have to wonder with Star Wars fans. Basically that Star Wars fans watch the movies, but they don't take in the lessons. So basically you see, but you don't understand. You watch, but you don't see. That sort of thing. And so he says again, just to clarify, fans deal a lot in absolutes, which is very much a Sith thing. I remember The Empire Strikes Back, or in The Empire Strikes Back, Luke speaking out through the Force to Leia, which he did. That's true. And then Vader also did it at the end of Empire Strikes Back. Again, this is also true. So, not to mention the entire sequel trilogy. Now, the reason why he didn't use a sequel trilogy is because people are using this as an example of maybe why the sequels are not solid. But again, I don't think anyone's really leaning into the sequel trilogy for canon, like to look at it and say this is canonical, because there's plenty of errors between the sequel trilogy films among themselves. So like things that they tried to make canon got decanonized and then recanonized, and now it's gone. So like, for instance, the simplest example I can think of for this, something that isn't huge but is just, it's literally one of the first things that you would notice, would be Kylo Ren's facial scar. Kylo Ren's facial scar went when he got slashed by the lightsaber, it went up the side of his face and then across into the center of his forehead. And then when we started seeing marketing for The Last Jedi in the very next film, Rian Johnson said, I don't like the way that looks, so I'm going to move it. And he put it right over the right eyebrow, which is like, what the heck are you doing, dude? Like, we all saw the scar. Like, it's already on Blu-ray. Like, what are you doing? You don't just move a scar just because you don't like the way it looks. It's the scar. That's where he got slashed. We saw it happen. It's forever on DVD. And like, I mean, I guess you could go back and you could George Lucas change it. You know, I guess that would technically be something that is also consistent in Star Wars. You go back and redo the CGI on something and make it look a little different if you think it's going to be better, I guess. But that was, again, something that a lot of fans did not appreciate, did not like. And part of that is kind of like there's like a philosophical thing about like when you create art and you put it out for the world, what people see, let it be. Because now that is their appreciation of your work. Even though it's your work, it's their appreciation of your work. So then there's a whole like creator's philosophy about that. Like the Mona Lisa, you create the Mona Lisa, you put it out, you hang it up on a wall, and everyone starts to admire it. You don't then go and you change it and make her a blonde or give her, for instance, you don't give her pink eyes. You know what I mean? Or like purple eyes. You don't do that because that's not what people liked about the art when they said, oh my gosh, this is the best artwork ever. And then you go back and change it. People get really upset about that because it's no longer the same thing that they appreciated to begin with. So there's a little bit of a thing there. But with this, Dave Filoni had the wisdom to call back to the original trilogy and not just say, look, we did it in what was it? We did it in The Force Awakens and we did it in The Last Jedi, where the Force was calling between Kylo and Rey. No. He said, let's take it back to something everybody agrees upon, which is the original trilogy. And so you take it back to the original trilogy and you show them, look, this happened in the originals. This has always been Star Wars. I don't have a problem with this, and I don't think you should either. But it also stands to reason that people that are alive do this maybe as much or more with example than say with people that are dead. And so I would say that the list that they give is long because we've seen a bunch of people, or we heard a bunch of people's voice in that segment. But I don't think if Dave Filoni has any say in it, she's not dead. If Dave Filoni has any say in it, I mean, that's his prime character. That is his greatest creation. He's solely responsible for creating the character of Ahsoka, as far as I am aware. It is his baby, and he's going to let that story train roll forever if he could, because there's so many things you could do with that. I mean, she's the only gray Jedi that most people are aware of. I mean, as far as Disney canon, I think she might be the only one. And as far as Legends, I mean, you got to be a pretty old school nerd to know a lot of the older like gray Jedi or people that balance the Force like that, other than Vapad Jedi like Mace Windu, so or Quinlan Vos. So it's pretty tough, to get there. But I do think that Dave Filoni's right. There's no reason to suspect that. In fact, I would say there's no reason really to suspect that this voice in The Rise of Skywalker means that Ahsoka's dead by the time The Rise of Skywalker happens. I don't think that's the case, and I don't think there's any actual evidence for that. So, yeah, that's what I think there. That's my 2 cents. Tell me in the comments what you guys think about that. Are you excited that Ahsoka is very likely alive? Or do you think that she is still probably dead like the other voices that spoke to Rey in the end sequence of The Rise of Skywalker? Let me know what you guys have to say down below in the comments. All right, now let's go to the next topic of the day, which is the very anticipated Star Wars The High Republic. And I wanted to talk with you guys because there's a lot going on here. It's going to start as a public